So friends, in the ongoing series on human resource management, we are learning about a yet another very crucial function of human resource management, that is training and development. So friends, I have always emphasized on the fact that it is the people that differentiate one organization from the other. No matter how big or small an organization is, it is the people that bring about the competitive advantage to any organization. And the quality of people depends upon the knowledge and skills, competencies that they possess. But in today's scenario, how does the knowledge, how does the skills or the competencies of people enhance? So the answer is through training and development. So that is why I said that training and development is a very crucial aspect of human resource management. So in the previous couple of lectures, we learnt about the training and development, that what is training and what is development, and very importantly, what is their difference. Though we use these terms collectively, training and development, but there is a difference between the terms that we did in the previous lecture. And we also discussed the reasons why training is important in the current scenario. So we all know that there are technological advancements, there is a cutthroat competition, there is growth and development of employees leading to better engagement and retention that further enhances the overall productivity of the organization. So it is through these employees, through retention, through better engagement, that an organization achieves its productivity and its goals. So the second aspect of the benefits of training and development is for the organization. So from the organization point of view, we can say that training and development of employees leads to reduced wastage, lesser number of accidents, and lesser time taken to perform a task. And we also discussed about what are the disadvantages of training and development. So friends, we all know that if any aspect has certain advantages, it will have its some disadvantages as well. So as far as training and development is concerned, we can say that it is a very lengthy and a time consuming process, and which incurs huge amounts of costs to the organization. And at times that employees are not much interested in taking trainings, and moreover what happens at times is that the top management is not very much convinced as to investing huge amounts of money into trainings. So they do not support the idea of giving training to their employees. Then employees at times they leave the organization with better skills. So for example, I am an employee, I have been trained in my current organization, and after getting those skills and competencies, I leave my current organization and go to another organization where I might be getting a higher pay. So my parent organization will be lose me. They will be losing a skilled person, a skilled employee. So these are some of the disadvantages of training. Then we also learnt about the training process. So it is not something that is done in a haphazard manner. We have a training process which contains number of steps and which begins by identifying the training needs. Once you identify that your employees need to be trained, then you establish certain objectives. Why you are training? What type of training is to be imparted? And when those objectives are clarified, then you select the appropriate method, that what method would you be applying. So we shall be learning about all these methods also in some subsequent lectures. And once the methods are decided, you then implement your training program. And after your training program has been implemented, the training has been imparted to the employees, the next two steps are very crucial, that is evaluating your programs and getting the feedback. So that brings us to the topic of today's lecture. So friends, today we will be learning about what is training effectiveness, why we need to measure training effectiveness, what are the key challenges in measuring the training effectiveness, and what is the process of evaluating or measuring training effectiveness. So the first and foremost question that we are going to answer is, what is training effectiveness? So we have learned that what is training, and now training has been imparted, say to a couple of trainers. Now what is your training effective? So training effectiveness basically measures the impact of training on the trainee's knowledge, skills, performance, as well as the company's return on investment. So whatever training you have imparted to your employees, is that training effective? Has that training impacted the current knowledge or the current skills or performance of the employee or not? So the training's goals and objectives should be determined before training occurs. Every training has a certain objective or a certain goal, and that has to be determined before actually the training is being imparted. Now this allows you to clearly and accurately measure the training effectiveness. For example, a trainee's productivity or the sales numbers and happiness might be measured before training occurs, and then once again after it has taken place. Now this will determine that what was the effectiveness of your training. So if I was not productive before training, but after getting training my productivity has increased, that means that training has been effective. So this demonstrates the quality and effectiveness of training and enables businesses to either continue doing more of same or change their approach. So if, taking the previous example only, if you say that my productivity has increased after my training, that means the training program was effective, and the human resource management, they should continue doing the same trainings. But however, if my productivity is still not up to the mark, it is still not matching what is desired, that means the training has not been effective because it hasn't impacted my productivity. So that means that training has been faulty, or there are certain mismanagement in imparting that training. So that means you have to change your approach while imparting training. So the next question is, why measure training effectiveness? So why do you think that it is important to measure training effectiveness? So friends, there are many reasons why organizations, both large and small, they consistently measure training effectiveness. So let's learn some of those reasons why training effectiveness is important to be measured. So the first point is that it helps to determine if training benefits employees. So perhaps the most important reason for evaluating training effectiveness is to see if it benefits your employees' skills and performance or not. Additionally, it provides them with a clear idea of what they have achieved and the path they need to take to get to the next level. So training basically provides a roadmap. It tells you what you have achieved and what still has to be achieved? What is the next level of your achievement? What all is still left, or what is still missing that can be enhanced through training? So, without measurements in place, employees are likely to feel that their learning at work is purposeless. So, until and unless we measure the effectiveness of training, imparting a training program is of no use. So, evaluating training effectiveness, it helps to communicate to employees where company is today and where it aims to go, along with the skills necessary to get there. So, as I said, that it is the quality of people, and this quality of people comes from their skills and knowledge, that helps an organization get its brand value or its brand image, and that quality can be maintained and enhanced through training. So, that is why we need to keep on measuring or evaluating the effectiveness of these training programs. So, consequently, managers and employees can come together and discuss the results, helping the employees feel empowered and part of the broader vision. So, when the training effectiveness is measured, it helps employees feel empowered, they feel valued, and they feel as a part of this big whole family of the organization. So, the second reason why we need to measure effectiveness is to see effect on business performance and determine training's return on investment. So, the ultimate goal of all training programs is to boost business performance and see a return on your investment. So, every organization that spends money on training must actually see some tangible results in front of their eyes. They must see that, okay, we have spent this much amount and this is the ultimate benefit that we are getting from investing in our employees' training. So, changes in productivity, sales and profits can all be tracked and measured, and you would hope to see an increase in all of the above. So, an IBM survey report shows that organizations that regularly invest in training, they perform higher than those that don't. But it must be the right type of training and be meticulously tracked and measured. So, as I said, that training must not be given just for the sake of giving training or imparting training. It must be of the right type and it should be meticulously measured also. That is, it has to be evaluated that whether it has met the objectives of the organization or not. So, for example, we can say that it is difficult to determine whether training in question was responsible for an increase in sales or if it was a result of something else. Now, it is very difficult to measure that has the sales increased because your sales people were trained into dealing with customers, or it was due to some other reason like a marketing campaign. So, this is why it is important to examine things like learning transfer and noticeable behavioral changes that may have taken place since the training program. So, the third reason why we need to measure training effectiveness is to uncover issues in training process and improve it. So, whenever we measure things, we try to control the negative things and bring in more of the positive aspects. And when you invest valuable resources like time, money and energy into training programs, it is essential to measure whether they are working or not. So, whatever you are doing, you have to measure also whether it is of some use or not, whether it is impacting your employees or not. But your intentions for your training will be unique to your business and your long-term goals. So this is why you need to define clear objectives at start. So in the beginning also when we were discussing about the training effectiveness and the training process, I said that it is very important to have clear objectives, why you are imparting training. So if you fail to do this, then any results you receive will be meaningless, because you do not have a target, you do not have a goal, a mission. So once you know where you are heading, measuring training effectiveness will help you see if you are on the right track or you need to make some adjustments. So by measuring training effectiveness, you can make those little adjustments if you see that you are not on the right path. So the next reason why we need to measure training effectiveness is to improve the impact of training programs. When training aligns with business objectives, an in-depth training evaluation is the only way that learning leaders can identify important key performance indicators or the KPIs to make training more relevant. By measuring results of a program, the learning and development teams can evaluate those results against the predetermined KPIs and enhance or improve the training plans based on that assessment. So if you feel that your trainings are not impacting the way they should, you can make certain changes into it so that your training becomes more relevant. But that is possible only when you track your training programs, when you measure, when you evaluate the effectiveness of these programs. But another important aspect is that it is not easy to evaluate effectiveness of any training program. There are certain challenges involved. So unfortunately, the aspirations to evaluate effectiveness of training program implementations don't necessarily equate to concrete and measurable success in determining training effectiveness. So some of the critical challenges that learning and development leaders they encounter while embarking on the initiatives for evaluating training effectiveness. So we will be discussing some key challenges in measuring effectiveness of a training program. The first one being the inability to link training to talent development and performance. So at times there are no clear metrics what is to be measured. So until and unless you have metrics to determine what is to be measured, you cannot link training with talent development. So organizations that lack employee performance metrics, they are unable to ascertain whether training helps or hinders employee performance. For example, how do you link specific training outcomes to even more specific performance objectives? So these have to be very clear and specific, only then you will be able to link. But many organizations do not have specific performance objectives. So how can you link your training to those objectives? And until and unless you link those outcomes of your training with the development or the performance, your training is of no use. And secondly, how do you determine if training is helping to develop your in-house talent pools or if employees are successfully applying newly acquired skills as performance aids on the job? So that also has to be taken care of while you are evaluating your training programs. So the second challenge is the lack of right framework and methodology. So how do you measure effectiveness if you do not have a proper method or a relevant framework to do so? So when preparing to evaluate the effectiveness of training program, results, most evaluators, they begin with the training outcomes measurement. Now this strategy seldom works because it doesn't consider what happened prior or subsequent to training. So my performance is not up to the mark. So there could be n number of reasons for the lack of my performance. How does training impact my performance? And while measuring my training effectiveness, if you do not know what was my mindset before that training or what was my mindset after that training, you cannot evaluate its effectiveness. So it could be a reason that I was suffering from some personal a mental disorder and I was not in a very good frame of mind. That is why my performance or my productivity declined. And you have ascertained that lack of productivity or loss of performance is due to lack of training, and you imparted training, but after that training maybe I was in a positive frame of mind and I started performing better, and now you feel that it is because of that training that my performance has increased, but maybe it has nothing to do with that training. So it is very important that you measure what was happening before and what was happening after that training. So the right framework and methodology is important. So what's required is a methodology that reviews training framework across organization, beginning with the training needs analysis. So that is very important, that you must assure and ascertain that do I need training to enhance my productivity, and culminating with a determination of whether training meets all KPIs and delivers a justifiable ROI or the return on investment. The third challenge is the lack of right tools in technology to collect data. So training technologies such as learning management systems and learning content management systems, it has embedded tools that provide a lot of analytical data for evaluating training effectiveness. But unfortunately, many organizations, they either lack these right tools and technologies to collect such data, or they are incapable of using available tools to collect and objectively analyze that data. The next challenge is lack of capacity in-house. So many organizations lack the capability or the capacity to link organizational performance with specific training related outcomes. And this lack of abilities is reflected in ineffective evaluation of training results. So friends, we are currently learning about measuring training effectiveness. So once you have imparted training, it is very crucial that you measure or evaluate the effectiveness of these training programs. So up till now we have learnt about why we need to measure training effectiveness and what are the key challenges in evaluating these training programs effectiveness. So we will continue with the same topic in the next part of the lecture. Thank you.